Are you ready back there? Are you all ready back there? Check one, check two. You ready? I hope you all can hear me. Greetings and good evening, everybody. My name is Leslie Lang, and I'm the Director for Adult Learner Programs and Services and Student Affairs. I'm also a member of the MLK Week of Commemoration Planning Committee. Give it up for us. It's evening celebrations. I'm telling you, the theme for this year is a testament of hope, #for the culture. Our week-long commemoration is a tribute to Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr., and it's a long-standing remembrance for everyone, for our fight for freedom and justice and racial equity continues. This week, we had the pleasure of celebrating Dr. King's birthday on Sunday. The annual banquet sponsored by the Forum on Black Affairs had over 750 people at the BJC. Exactly, that's no small feat, right? On Monday, over 300 students gathered in the hub on their day off, I mind you, and we served a community in recognition of the National Day of Service. More than 300 students came. That's right. In partnership with Rise Against Hunger, we packed over 10,000 meals for international distribution. That's right, we're mighty and few, but we packed 10,000 meals to go overseas. We made commemorative posters. We assembled 300 care packages with a soldier's hand, and those will be sent to deployed service members that went overseas in December. We sewed menstrual bags with the Days for Girls Club. We created bookmarks for the Maryland Book Bank to support their literacy project. And we partnered with Project Linus, and we made more than 50 fleece blankets for children battling illness. We learned about plarning. Can everybody say plarning? I know. What was that? It's upcycling of plastic bags into yarn that are going to be used for sleeping pads for the unhoused. Give it up. I'm saying that's a lot of work, right? Okay, on Tuesday night, we invited back and we had a dozen faculty, staff, graduate, and undergraduate students, and one sixth grader who performed prose and poetry echoing the words and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and other civil rights leaders and their historic contributions. I'm saying, it's all that. And if you're a Facebook fan, you can find it out there. Someone was streaming us like they are today. So welcome online viewers to our week of commemoration celebration. And yesterday was Wednesday. Say, what did you do on Wednesday, Leslie? We proudly gathered in solidarity at the Paul Robeson Cultural Center here at Penn State, and we rallied for our annual March for Peace. We chanted at Old Main Steps, we marched down to the MLK Plaza, and we had pop-up performances in the downtown district. How about it? That's right, we are being seen and we are representing. I think I heard Folan. I heard him. Might have to get him up here. All right, and tonight, we're gonna have a little bit more of poetry, a lot more music, some entertainment, and we're gonna have a deep dive with Culture Central, our student TV hosts. They're gonna facilitate a dialogue with our special guest, Orlena Nwokah Blanchard, and then there will be dancing later tonight. Y'all ready? Yes. All right, I wanna hear, y'all ready? Yes. Okay. I was reminded earlier this week, as we celebrate, we also grieve. My lovely student Carmen brought a beautiful poem to my attention, and I loved it so much, I told her I was going to share it with all of you tonight. And it is entitled, Martin Luther King Mourns Trayvon Martin. And it's written by Lauren Elaine. She's the author of Difficult Fruit. All right, y'all ready? Show me some love. For you, my son, I dreamed a childhood unburdened by hate, a boyhood of adventure, skinned knees, hoops, first loves, small rebellions. I dreamed you whole. and growing into your own manhood, writing its definitions with your daily being. I dreamed you alive, living. For you, America's African heir, I dreamed a future of open doors, of opportunity without oppression, of affirmation and action. I dreamed Obama, I dreamed Oprah, I dreamed Colin, I dreamed Condoleezza. I dreamed doctors and dancers, lawyers and linebackers, models and musicians, mechanics, preachers, professors, police, authors, activists, astronauts, and even an all Black as Jesus is. I dreamed you dapper, the Black skin of you, polished to glow. Your curls, your kinks, your locks, your bald, your wild, your freshly barbered, all beautiful. I dreamed you wearing whatever the hell you want and not dying for it. For your brother, I dreamed a world softened by love, free from fear, that makes too early ancestors of our men, turns our boys into targets, headlines, and ghosts. I had a dream that my children will one day live in a nation where they are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Sweet song of my sorrow, sweet dream deferred. For you, gone one, I dreamed justice. Her scales tipped away from your extinction, her eyes and arms unbound and open to you at last. Thank you. You can clap. All right. Next up, we have a phenomenal student, Jaylyn Monroe. She hails from Philadelphia, and she is a senior majoring in political science. She's serving as the president for the Multicultural Undergraduate Law Association. Jaylyn previously served as Penn State's Black Student Caucus and currently holds the pageant title of Miss Black Pennsylvania in the Miss Black America pageant system. Most notably, Jaylyn was the MLK Speaker for Peace oratorical competition first place winner in 2020 and 2021. Jaylyn's accolades are also include, she was the $10,000 winner of the U-Pitch competition at Penn State. So her business, Miss Monroe Collection, is an organic and protective hair company, and she is proudly working that. Jaylyn aspires also to complete a master's degree in the future, and she wants to transform our justice system. And tonight, she's going to perform an original piece for us, The Beauty in My Blackness. Come on down, Jaylyn.
Good evening, everybody. How are you feeling tonight? Y'all could do a lot better than that. I said, how are y'all feeling tonight? So, if you hear something that you like, feel free to snap, to interact with me. Let me know that you like what I'm saying. One thing I love about my Black is its diversity. How our queens come of different shapes and sizes and various tones and shades, from curvy to curvaceous, from slim to slim thick, from caramel to dark chocolate to coffee with cream. Black women exhibit beauty in every way. How one day your hair is kinky and curly, from Bantu knots to the next day in box braids and locks, to wigs of different textures from deep wave to straight. The beauty in my Blackness is my beauty, is definitive by me and not by society. Even if it was a norm to criticize Black beauty, my beauty is the very reason why white America envies me. How white women will pay thousands of dollars to get lip fillers to have their lips look as luscious as mine. The way they've been paying millions to have their body be as voluptuous as mine. How they stare in class, in meetings, in the store, in the elevator, and passing by with discernment and hatred that goes beyond the color of my skin, but the insecurity that their beauty can never. How you criticize my use of extensions but judge me for the thickness, my shrinkage, and complexities of my 4C, when in reality you're jealous that your hair could never look as good as me. The beauty in my Blackness is its diversity, its versatility, its ability to code switch from FM vernacular to corporate meeting subtext, its ability to portray humble with a smile across its face, even when she's targeted for being the only Black person in the room, its ability to overcome the stigma that's been placed on Black women for centuries, its ability to shine in the dark, even when you've drowned her in the depths of the sea. Because like true Blackness, the beauty in my identity is that I will always rise above the occasion, even though I'm not expected to. The beauty in my identity is that I will continue to surpass the limitations that have been pushed onto me. The beauty in my identity is that even though you expect impoverished and not educated, I stand before you as a scholar at the Pennsylvania State University. And even though I come from the hard streets of Philly, I am not a trench baby, but a product of a two-parent household from Mount Airy. See, my Black is my armor that strengthens me, that makes me bulletproof, that helps me stand firmly against every microaggression, racist remark, every stigma that's been said unto my name. Because the beauty in my Blackness is no matter how many times you pierce my skin, it will never peel, because my melanin is too rich to break through. The beauty in my Blackness is me.
Can you still come from back then? If you want to see the faces, you need the house lights, right? You need the lights. So audience, bear with us, the show must go on, but someone realized that it was flickering in the back and that would disturb the recording and the streaming. And so they were trying to do something. But I don't think it's good. I'm gonna sit in the chair so you can check. Can you see my face?
It's high inside. Sorry.
This is an exciting place. So I'll use this minute. On Sunday at the banquet, I got the most fabulous gift in that they awarded and named me the 2023 humanitarian. And that is no small feat, not for what I've accomplished so much, but to sit among your peers and have them recognize you in such a way after 16 years. So it's no big thing. So it's kind of nice to see. I'm just going to sit here for a minute.
And you had the most fabulous dress.
You know, I did. I tricked them all and I showed up again. I thought they were going to catch you off guard because I planned those banquets for like 10 years and I wasn't on committee this year. And so that was what was funny. So the person who was giving you the award was like, and I don't think she knows. It's a complete surprise. And I walked up in a gown. Is that okay? Can you all see that? Yes? Okay, and do you need to swap out your battery now? You're still good? Okay. Sorry about that. All right, we're gonna roll. We're gonna roll with it. Thank you, Peggy. All right, I need applause. All right, so hopefully you loved our beautiful poems and our selections that we brought to you this evening. One to honor our Dr. King and Trayvon, and the other to acknowledge all of us in the room with the beauty of our Blackness. Thank you so much, Jalen. Next up, I have the pleasure of introducing another fabulous undergraduate, Alyssa Mora-Mickens, who hails from Philadelphia, is a biobehavioral health major who is serving as president for LOCKS student organization. Everybody know what LOCKS is? Loving our curly, kinky, or straight hair. Come on down, Alyssa.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Leslie. That was an amazing selection. So on point for tonight's discussion. As Leslie mentioned, I'm the president of LOCKS, which stands for Loving Our Curly, Kinky, and Straight Hair. Our mission celebrates the essence of natural beauty through education, empowerment, and embracing the difference between each individual hair journey. In addition, our purpose is to break through stereotypes associated with natural hair. We are excited to have our very own Penn State's hottest new show, Culture Central, host tonight's guest speaker. Culture Central is an entertainment talk show for students of color. They have launched in the Donald P. Belisario College of Communications. Our two co-hosts are Eric Pichardio and Jada Stewart, which will host a discussion about the Crown Act legislation that will prohibit racial discrimination based on hairstyle with our guest speaker, Orlena Nwokah Blanchard. The Crown Act stands for Create a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Eric Pichardo is a senior pursuing a degree in marketing with Smeo College of Business and minoring in media studies in the Belisario College of Communications. His campus involvement includes serving as the resident assistant for 2 years, member of the Dominican Student Association and Latino Caucus. Eric is the co-creator, executive producer, head of marketing, and co-host of Penn State's talk show for students of color, Culture Central. Jada Stewart, his co-host, is a third-year student majoring in public relations with minors in digital media trends and analytics, digital entrepreneurship and innovation, and pursuing a certificate in project management from Temple University. Currently, Jaden is the vice president of marketing and public relations in the Line 90.7 FM on our PSU radio station. Jaden is the co-creator, executive producer, and co-host for Cultural Central. They have shared a passion for telling stories of diverse people and learning the intricacies of media industry. Please welcome Eric and Jaden from Culture Central.
They were supposed to be listening to their big interest. Y'all didn't hear your name.
We coming. What's up, y'all? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
What's up, everybody? What? No, I need some noise. Yeah. We we are super, super excited to be here with you guys. This is our first time ever going live, so we're super excited. Thank you for this opportunity. So let's get right into it.
Also, thank you guys, everybody here. Thank you guys so much for coming. We appreciate everybody here right now.
All right. So without further ado, you want to switch? Pause. Hello. All right. Are we good back there, y'all? Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Okay, are we ready for the lovely Miss Orlena? Are you guys ready?
Look, we couldn't hear y'all back there that much. That's why we were still waiting. So let her know that y'all ready. Ready? All right. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Yes. Come on.
I want you all there in the morning when I get out. Somebody cheering.
You can take either mic.
Can I take either one?
Either one.
Where's my favorite color?
Right. Doesn't our guest of honor look beautiful tonight?
Come on.
Is this on?
Yes, it is.
See, that's dangerous. Give me a mic.
Why is dangerous?
Oh, I like to talk.
Ooh.
Hi, everybody.
Good, that's what we're here for.
Hello.
Hi, how are you today? How you
I'm
feeling?
really, really good. I was just sharing with folks. I loved the drive to Penn State. I live in Maryland. I'm in the DMV. And
What's the DMV?
it was the most beautiful 3-hour drive today, which I rarely do, long distance driving myself. And I realized sometimes you just have to take a moment to be still with yourself. And it was fantastic. So I'm happy to be here. I'm blessed.
We are so thankful. So thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much.
Thank you.
Okay, we know that you're a very busy lady.
Talk to me.
So can you tell us a little more about yourself for the people in the audience who may not know who you are?
Yes. What can I tell you that you wouldn't read in a bio? So long story short, I'm an African immigrant in America. I'm British and Nigerian. I was raised in England and Nigeria. I came to the States so many years ago. I'm trying not to look like it. But I did come in middle school in the mid 80s, actually early mid 80s. And I am the child of professors. I am a former engineer, always an engineer, actually.
Yeah.
So I was an industrial engineer undergrad. I started my career almost 30 years ago as a systems engineer and business process engineer. And then I decided that just wasn't sexy enough for me. And I went to business school, went to graduate school in multinational marketing and multinational business and marketing. And then I pivoted a little bit, but I was coming out of graduate school in 2000, and digital media was, just coming about in the way that we live with it now. And so it was the perfect, mix or intersection of a marketing degree and an engineering or a technical background. And so for the last 20 some odd, God, it's crazy to say that. For the last 23 years, I have been in the field of marketing. I've run digital media. I have worked in Black media and the television space. But that aside, that's what I do and sort of my journey to what I do. But I am a mother of 3 boys. I just celebrated my 25th wedding anniversary last August.
Congratulations!
Thank you. I married my college sweetheart. And
There's hope.
no, there is hope, and it's all Black love. I'm telling you, it's good stuff. And for those who are Game of Thrones fans, you can just call me Mother of Dragons.
Okay.
Yeah, come for me, they're coming for you. But, yeah. So that's a little bit of me. I'm sure we'll get into more.
We sure are. We're so excited. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Guys, we're all here. You guys all have your crowns. We're going to talk about the Crown Act today. And I heard someone kind of explain a little bit about it before we got out here. Orlena, can you kind of tell them a little bit more about what the Crown Act is and what is your position in it?
Yes, happy to. And I will say this, if I get to be a little long-winded, because brevity is not my strong suit, stop me. But I think the origin story of the Crown Act is important for everybody to know. First and foremost, the Crown Act is a law that prohibits discrimination based on natural hair texture and hairstyles. And it is prohibiting race-based hair discrimination. I really want to clarify. It's not just hair discrimination, as in your hair is blue and everybody has to let you, in when your hair is blue. It is about those things that have a disparate impact on people of African origin and descent. And what happens with hair discrimination is we are seeing and understanding more now how social, economic opportunities, educational opportunities are denied to Black people because of their hair, because it is an extension of our race. And so the Crown Act, what it does is it does not define hair as a protected class. Race, gender, religion, those, sexual orientation, those are all protected classes when it comes to civil rights. What it does is recognize the fact that race is not defined. Okay, race is a social construct. It is not genetic by any means. So if you look at the Civil Rights Act of 1964, if you look at, anti-discrimination laws, there's no definition of race. What it does, it extends the definition of race, really the identification of race, to include characteristics of race, namely hair and hair texture and protective hairstyles. So braids, locks, twists, Bantu knots. So it means that you cannot be fired from a job or denied a job because you have natural Black hair or protective hairstyles. So that's what the Crown Act does. It does not protect against, if you decide you're gonna wear a mohawk and turn it orange, that is not race-based hair discrimination by definition of the Crown Act. Okay, and it specifically addresses race-based hair discrimination in workplaces and public schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wrap it up.
Yes.
Okay. So we know that the Crown Act has been passed in 18 states. So can 19? Okay, it's a go.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you tell us if this law is a state or a federal bill, and what is the distinction between the two?
Great question. And I think I don't think I answered the question about my role in it. So we'll come back to that when we talk about how the Crown Act came to be. Is that good? Okay, so let's talk about federal versus state. I'm going to preface this with, I am not a lawyer, okay? And I'm not a legislator, okay? But I am close enough to know enough to be dangerous, right? So at the federal level and state level, what we should know is that the Crown Act is necessary at both levels, right? I said workplaces and schools. Well, think about it. Education, for those of you who don't know, education is regulated at a state level. So there are statutes, education codes that determine, right, what schools can do, at least public schools. And so it's necessary for us to have state laws so that those education codes, those education laws consider, right, hair equity, consider hair discrimination, and ensure that we protect against it. Same thing with respect to business. Every state may have different small business laws and statutes. So we have to ensure that every state that has different laws and statutes, that it's able to address and protect against hair discrimination. At a federal level, the federal bill that was introduced both in the US House and in the Senate, which did not pass in December by unanimous consent, so we'll have to reintroduce it in the next session. But that law, if you actually go online, you guys should do this. Google the Crown Act, Federal Crown Act, or the Crown Act in the US House of Representatives. And you'll see that the bill actually speaks specifically to those things that federal law regulates. So when it comes to anything that may be federal assisted programs, it could be housing programs, employment, which is regulated at a federal level. So we need both federal and state. 19, because Alaska just, they passed a bill recently But all of those states, those 19 states, does not include Pennsylvania yet, but does include Maryland, New York, California, Washington, Colorado. There's so many of those 19 states, which means almost 50% of the Black population in this country is protected. And we need to ensure that the rest of the population is protected. So we're still going to go state by state, even if we have a federal and when we get a federal bill, because we need it at both levels.
Okay, that sounds
Absolutely,
good.
y'all. Y'all better clap it up. Come on. Wake up.
And on that note, can I say this? On that note, for all of you, part of this conversation and the reason we do this and all the folks who are behind the work with the Crown Act, we do it because we're trying to help you understand that your voice has power. And so when we talk about passing a bill and advocating for legislation at a state level and at a federal level, there are so many things that you can do. So one, understanding, having this conversation, I thank you so much for being here to just learn a little bit about what it means and why it's important, but it's also about what role you can play. And so there is a petition. If you go to thecrownact.com or if you go to dove.com/crown, there's a petition you can sign. We're nearly 500,000 signatures. Most social impact movements, their petitions, 10, 15,000 signatures at best. That's all you really need is what we're told in the world of social impact. Almost 500,000, that's almost 500,000 signatures. People around the country have said, it's worth putting my name next to this. So make sure you do that, please. Make sure you support and make sure that you communicate with your representatives. They're elected officials. This is a democracy. So we need to activate that democracy, which means you are their constituents. You control whether they get elected or not. So it's really up to you to help encourage them, right? To lead this legislation and make sure that we pass it. Yeah.
Guys, passing a bill is not easy. Like, this is a hard process. So can you kind of like talk us about like what that process was like for you and like, again, your role in this?
You don't see all this gray? All this gray? So that gets me to the origin story of the Crown Act. There are so many people. I am one of several people. I am one of the core four of four women, four Black women who actually came up with the idea to pursue anti-discrimination law. But originally, it was the idea that we just identified hair discrimination is a real issue. It's not just an issue of socially how we feel. It's an economic issue as well, right? We're being denied livelihood and education, and that's just not right. It's a civil rights issue. And we knew that because in 2018, there was a case that went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said there was no constitutional grounds to even review it, right? So essentially said this is trivial, and we're not gonna have this conversation. And there was enough brewing in our community, in our culture, and has been for generations, right? When Angela Davis rocked her afro, that was a political statement, but it doesn't mean every time you walk out the door as a Black woman or a Black person, you're making a political statement. You're just being you, right? And the natural hair movement, I'm a lot older than you all. I have a child in college, and my generation, we relaxed, we pressed, we did all of that because we thought we had to, not just because we wanted to. Do it because you want to. Don't do it because you have to, because that's the only way you get a job. So myself, a woman named Kelly Richardson Lawson, who is my business partner and the founder of our firm, Joy Collective, we were invited to pitch for some work with the Dove brand. And the Dove brand was actually managed by a lady called AC Eggleston Bracey. I'm going to tell you guys why I'm naming people, and I want you to register their names. Because in our history and in Black history, we often don't register the name. We don't tell the full story. We're not in the history books all the time. So I want you, like Destiny's Child said, say my name.
Say it, y'all, say it.
And so AC Eggleston Bracey happens to be now the president of Unilever USA. She's a Black woman that runs one of the biggest divisions of one of the biggest companies in the world. And AC at the time had started a new job at Unilever. And she called on Kelly, my business partner, and called on the two of us and said, we, all of these personal care brands, if you guys don't know Unilever, Vaseline, Tresemme,
Everything.
right? Axe, Dove, they're all part of her portfolio. And she said, but we're supposed to be representing everybody, and I'm not seeing representation at this company and at all of the vendors and partners that we work with. And she invited us to pitch for the business. And at the time, they were interested in, and I really give a lot of credit to Dove, saying, because we are to serve all women and all girls, we need to identify what some of the experiences are that are different for women of color or for Black women and girls than for the rest of the world. And they had already identified hair discrimination was an issue specifically for Black women, but didn't really know how to address that. And they wanted to engage a company that was really had expertise in the Black community and as Black women. And so we pitched for the business. We won the business. At the time, we thought we're going to create this massive campaign, this cultural movement to talk about the significance of hair discrimination and the damage it can do. And then we were at Essence Festival, you know, Black women's like Super Bowl. And we met Ajua Asamoah, who is my sister. I'm Nigerian, she's Ghanaian, right? We're neighbors, West African neighbors. And Ajua is one of the most phenomenal forces of nature you will ever meet in life. Ajua is, she went to Temple. She's a trained psychologist. If you haven't heard her name, know it, say her name. She is a racial equity expert, and she's also a senior advisor to Congress, members of Congress and presidents. She was actually the person who I believe did the, she actually, with President Biden, she helped build the racial equity strategy for his campaign. And so Ajua said, you know, I get the marketing piece, I get the cultural piece, but I know how to, you know, pass laws. I know how to get bills passed. And so she said, we really need to address this, not just from a cultural perspective, but from a policy perspective. That's really where the Crown Act idea came from. And what we did then is we knew that California had the most progressive anti-discrimination laws. So we knew that if we got a bill in California, it would serve as model legislation for the rest of the country. And Senator Holly Mitchell, former senator, she's now in a different role. At the time, she was a state senator in California, and she's 6 foot tall, Black woman with natural hair with beautiful locks. And she said, you know, she heard AC and Kelly and Ajua were at an event and heard them speak. And she said, you know what? I want to do this in California. And so Ajua, our legislative lead, worked with Senator Mitchell and her office every day. We had a law firm that did all the work, the research, the precedent, came up with the strategy of how to amend an existing discrimination law and statute. And it took a couple of months, and then Senator Mitchell and her team introduced the Crown Act. January 30th, 2019, we had a bill. Nobody believed that it was possible. And from there, it just kept rolling. Like next it was New York and New Jersey, and we were hiring lobbyists, and we were going to testify in, you know, state capitals. And it's going on 5 years.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so that brings us to 19 states, I think 43 municipalities, the Virgin Islands, so 1 U.S. territory, but we still have a ways to go.
That's beautiful. And that's such a powerful story. With so many different things going on in the world, you know, hair discrimination, colorism, and all of these other things. What other acts would you like to see grow? What campaigns would you like to see come out of this movement? And what other initiatives would you like to see?
Oh, no, that's a great question. So the thing about the Crown Act is one. I think, you know, this whole conversation about racial equity, 2020, right? It's not that it was new. You guys, you know, as Black people in this country, and in fact, all over the world, you can look at what's happening in England, you can look at what's happening in Brazil, you can look at what's happening in the continent, right? And what colonization did. there's always been a struggle to change the social hierarchy. And 2020 just took everything to new heights, right? It's a racial reckoning in which we said no more, right? No more. But the journey, the movement, the struggle is not new. And so many have paved the way before us. So the Crown Act, to me, rather than being really new, is just an evolution of the journey, the civil rights journey, right? And with passing laws, what we do know, because even looking at the Civil Rights Act, and you're talking about 50 years ago, what you do know is passing a law doesn't mean that you change culture, that you shift hearts and minds, or you change behavior. So what I'd love to see happen is how we actually, now that we have laws being passed, that we operationalize those laws, which means we enforce new behaviors, right? And I say enforce rather than encourage, because that's what law can do, right? You can encourage, people don't have to. But if there's a law, right, there are repercussions, there are consequences. So I'd like to see in the corporate world, in workplaces, and that's work we're doing, and also in schools, where we're holding people accountable, where we're doing the education around the Crown Act, where we're helping people understand what hair bias looks like. See, there's a difference between bias and discrimination. Bias is you feel a certain way and you behave a certain way. Discrimination is you behave a certain way that denies somebody an opportunity, that makes it inequitable for them versus somebody else. And that's illegal where the Crown Act exists. So I want to see more education, more awareness, and more accountability in schools and workplaces. So that's key. But as far as social action is concerned and racial equity, which is, what's really, really important to me and has become really the nucleus of my work and my passion, is seeing equity for all, not just the Black community, but when it comes to gender equity, equity for the LGBTQ community, equity for any of those who are underestimated. Forget underrepresented. I say underestimated because we are all so much greater than what the social structure affords us in so many ways. So, when we talk about the Crown Act, I underscore all the time and punctuate. This is an economic conversation, right? So I would like to see how that contributes to economic equity and a conversation that we're having about bias in economic equity, which is some of the work we're doing with clients that we have in the financial industry, which is what is the bias and stereotype that we hold against certain groups of people, specifically Black people, that then, encourage or influence the way people behave towards us, which means we will never be on parity socially or economically unless we make those shifts. So that's what I'm committed to and passionate about.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So talking about that, there's a lot of passion in this because you have to be to get it this far. That means you probably have some experiences with your natural hair that we all, guys, we had a PWI, right? Yeah, I know how it is. And like us, you also went to PWI, right?
I did.
How was that?
Different generation, but I did.
It's still not great.
It's still applicable. No, it's great. You know what? And I feel like I'm doing all this talking. I want to hear from you guys just for a sec. Tell me, because I want to give you perspective, but I'd love to understand, because I learned so much from your age and your generation and what it looks like. I went to college 30 years ago. So when I think about 30 years ago, we weren't having this natural conversation. Like, just think about how many of you actually go get your hair relaxed regularly, or go run and get relaxer so that you're so desperate to get relaxer. That's what we were doing 30 years ago. So it's a different conversation. The pressures are still there, right? Because many of you are graduating. You're the next generation of the workforce. So you're now starting to think, okay, on a college campus, I can do X. But if I go to a job interview or if I go to the workplace, I think it was the same thing for us back then. But there was a routine that we had, because I was thinking about it this morning as I was coming in, and I was thinking my roommate and I went through this weekly routine, right? I went to another Big Ten school, 40,000 students. Percentage of us was relatively small. So for the most part, you knew each other, kind of. And we all sort of had the same routine. Once a week, you washed your hair. Heidi used to do her hair. She would, wash her hair, roll a set, sit under the dryer. I would do the, press and curl. And I would burn the back of my neck or my ear. Like that was usual, like the little burn you had at the back of your ears. And it was so natural that you felt like you had to do that. And it was a chore that you had to go through. But we were so mentally conditioned that that's just what you did. That was what your hair was supposed to be. And to be honest with you, my journey, by the time I got to college, I had lived in the States, like junior high school and high school. And when I came to the States, I had a very interesting transition to sort of identity. And I know we're going to get into talk identity, but my hair was such a big part of my identity. And it was because in Nigeria, as a mixed Nigerian, everybody was like, oh, when I braided and plaited my hair the whole time as a kid in Nigeria, oh, your hair is too soft. Oh, there's not enough Africa in your hair, it would get fuzzy too quick. And so it was like, oh, she's white because she's light skinned. She's a Nigerian, or she's a white Nigerian. But I was a Nigerian. My identity was in my nationality. And so coming to the States, I didn't know the role that my hair would play in my identity in high school and college, and how I learned that it didn't matter if I was an African, it didn't matter if my mom was British, it didn't matter that I was an American citizen. I was Black in America, and I was a Black woman. And I learned it quickly. And I learned how much my hair was a part of that story. And I struggled. Because in high school, I went to a predominantly white high school, a class of maybe 100 kids. And there was only one other Black girl who ended up being my best friend in high school. Right. And we both straightened our hair. And I remember the first time I went to get a perm, I found Deborah. My mom found Deborah, a hairstylist. And I had that European silky, and I was feeling myself. And I didn't realize how conditioned I was to think that was good hair. But it was also, my mother is a white British woman, brunette. And so my hair then looked like hers. And I was like, okay, cool, no struggle. But I didn't realize what I was doing, what I had bought into. And then I got to college and everybody was like that too. Everybody wanted European silky. There was the beauty of what's happening in this room right now is that there's so much diversity in the hair going on in here. I love it, right? But I didn't have that in college. We weren't rocking braids. I didn't rock braids. I didn't wear my natural curly hair until in the workplace, until I worked at a Black company in Black media. And even then, when I went to major events, or I went to big client meetings, I always got my hair straightened. I didn't actually start wearing my hair as the style, as curly natural hair or protective style until I started doing this work. So it's been an incredible journey. And you asked the question about being in a predominantly white environment. There's a different consciousness, right, that you have about judgment. I found it less around other students and more sitting in a room, in a classroom, where the majority of teachers didn't look like me. And I was an engineering student, and the majority of teachers weren't white either. The majority of people teaching were actually Asian immigrants. And there is a lot of bias, just culturally. And so I sensed that as well, but I don't think I fully understood it back then. I think you guys have the benefit of having things like the Crown Act, having the natural hair movement. You also have the benefit of social media. I didn't have that. Look, we didn't even have, I'm gonna sound really old. We had a computer lab. We wrote papers by hand. I'm dead serious. I can't even, when I think about it. So the idea of having a smartphone where you capture that, you communicate, you see what happens. Somebody clowns in the classroom and somebody knows it within less than 60 seconds. We didn't have that. But I do know that there's this conditioning that we had to believe that whether you looked at music videos at the time or we were back then, it was like Yo MTV Raps. I mean, it was, all of the things that were part of our cultural influence, magazines and things like that. It was all, we were emulating what we believed was the definition of beauty, right? And we didn't know we had the power to redefine it. And that's what we're doing now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Make sure you guys clap it up.
Yeah.
And honestly, you were talking about like the diversity in hair, and I'm like looking around, y'all. You really out here stunning. All the forms, all the
Look, you all
forms.
are beautiful. I encourage you, literally, just look around. Like turn around and look at everybody in the room.
We have braids, we
Right?
have locks,
You
we
have
have curls,
everything.
we have everything
You
in the
have
crowd.
everything.
Buns.
You do, right? In every form. And right, exactly. And I think the thing too is, it's not that, I tell people all the time, like, I love a good blowout. Don't get me wrong. Like, I can do that too. But the point is, if I decide to do this or wear my natural hair, that shouldn't change my value or the perception of my value. And that's the point of the conversations that we're having.
I feel like that's a really important narrative to share because I feel like it's still relatable to this day and age. Because I know for me and some of my friends, when we have interviews, sometimes like we might have braids in, as soon as we get the email, like, okay, I feel as though I need to take out my braids and straighten my hair to look professional
Right.
and socially acceptable.
Yeah, we're done with that.
Yeah. We're done with
seriously.
it.
Heard it here
I mean, we're
first.
done with that. Because the thing is, as long as you have to understand, as Black people in particular, and when I speak Black people, I tell you guys, I'm talking about the diaspora because obviously my history is not African American specifically, but we are all of African origin and we are one diaspora. And so wherever you are in the world, the experience is, it might be a different version of it, but is essentially the same. And for generations, we have been conditioned, all people have been conditioned to that social hierarchy that's just based on history. I mean, history is what it is. We have to be more present to that. Look, I'm also 50% of me is British history, and British were most ruthless, I'll say it, most ruthless empire in the world. So I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that we are all conditioned in societies all over the world to think a certain way. And we shouldn't think as Black people or people of African origin that we haven't subscribed to that. We have in many ways. And to be honest, we had to at some point because in this country, it was a survival mechanism. In some cases, right, it was, and when you just look back in history, right, and you look at the 20th century, it wasn't just a matter of survival economically. We're talking about life or death, right? You go back to the paper bag test, you go back to the more you could pass, the safer the world was for you and your children. So when we think about this whole movement around natural hair and normalizing natural hair, it's about normalizing Blackness. It's about normalizing the Black aesthetic and the African aesthetic. But it's also redefining the perception of our worth and our value as human beings and members of society. And so I think we have to be careful about what we tell ourselves. That's why I say we're done. Because we have to stand up for that and we have to stand in our truth, right? And you guys, you're such an amazing group of young people and generation, is that you actually are the ones, I believe, that are ultimately going to change the world. You absolutely, absolutely will. And it's because of your generation and the power that you have at your fingertips are the reasons why we have this conversation and the reason why you can change your braids and take your braids out because you feel like it and it's being, 2 months and the braids are fuzzy and you're done and you're ready, but not because somebody else decided that it's not professional. That's your natural hair, that protects your hair. And so we should have a right to do that because that's the way God made us.
Amen.
Period. Come on.
Yeah.
Yes. So speaking about this and identity and all this, as far as going back to Dove and their alignment with the Crown Act, I don't know if you guys have seen any of the commercials for Dove, but like they're pretty cool and I think they do a pretty good job. You said they came to you. Did they come to Joy or did they go?
They came to Joy. They came to Joy. But the way it works, we're an agency, right? We're a creative agency. We do purpose-driven marketing. And the way it works, big companies, especially consumer products companies, most big advertisers, they hire agencies to help them who have a certain expertise. And we were given an opportunity to come in and pitch. They wanted an agency that would know the Black community, had experience with the Black community. And both Kelly and I come from working years in Black media and created a company that is majority Black women. And yes, we are Black women owned.
Yeah, come on. It's big.
And so they did. I will say this though, and this is something for you all as you're going into the workforce in the next couple of years, for those, whether you're graduating this year or in the next couple of years. Look for companies and brands that have made a commitment or that you can influence, have made a commitment to making the world a better place. That their mission in the world and their space in the world is not just to make money. Unilever is a company like that. Unilever has an interesting history. I suggest you study it. It has an interesting history. British company. And they've come a long, long way. They've come a really long way. And Dove is a brand that's over 65 years old. I think they're about 65 now. And they've always serviced women and girls. And for the past 20 years, their work has been really focused on celebrating real women. And what their mission is to ensure that all women, that a positive experience of beauty is accessible to all women. Because they recognize that self-esteem, confidence, opportunity, experience, how we see ourselves in the world as women is often determined by appearance and what that does to young people especially. And what they realized in doing this work, they had an experience where they realized that Black women have a different experience of beauty. So they did come to us and they engaged us. And what I love about working with Dove, and to be honest, they are the executive champion, corporate champion behind the Crown Act.
Period.
They are the ones who, Dove is the brand that identified hair discrimination as an issue that should be addressed. They have put a lot of resources, financial resources behind it for the last 5 years. They have funded this entire movement. And at first they were questioned. Even I remember a reporter, reaching out and basically threatening, like, this is just a marketing campaign. This is just a ploy to make Dove look good. And if you understand, I remember I said, say her name, A.C. Eggleston Bracey. This is a woman whose 25-year career has been about equity in beauty. She used to run CoverGirl. So when you saw Janelle Monáe, when you saw Queen Latifah, when you saw Rihanna, when you saw Ellen be CoverGirls, that was AC. And so you have to understand when you see companies, making moves and commitments like this, companies are not inanimate objects. Business is people. And there are people like AC, right? There are people like Ajua. There are people like Kelly. There are people like Orlena and a whole community of people and sisterhood of people behind that. But Dove is a brand for the past 5 years that has put their money where their mouth is. So first and foremost, go to dove.com/crown, sign the petition, support Dove as a brand, because the more you support Dove, the more they are in a position to support us and what's important to making the world a better place. That's Dove. So I give them a lot of credit.
Okay,
Yeah.
and moving into self-identity, you
Yes.
discussed living in several places,
Yes.
like Nigeria. We know you're in the United States right now,
Yeah.
the United Kingdom, Canada.
Yeah.
So what has your experience been like in all of these places, and how has it changed your outlook on life and you're here?
Yeah. Great question. So I am a citizen of 4 countries. My husband says, I'm Jason Bourne, don't tell anybody. He's like, somebody's going to come get you. I was born in Canada, but I never lived there. I was 2 weeks old when I left and went back to England. And England, Nigeria, and the States. It's been a very interesting experience. When I thought about that coming today, I thought I was brown in England, I was white in Nigeria, and I'm Black in America. That's what my experience has been. And what I realized that does, and what that's done for me, and it's been an interesting journey in that identity has been sometimes challenging, difficult, painful, because identity, while defined, your own identity is what you define. It's what you connect with. But we live in a world and a society that there are boxes, there are categories that everybody is going to put you in. And I think I was, it's funny, now when I think about it, I was in Nigeria to English, in America to Nigerian, in England to American now. It's been a journey in that I recognize that identity really is in connection and community. And it's where you find connection and community. And that is for you to define. And my hair has played a role, as I told you, because I spent years in Indiana. I went from the middle of West Africa as a tween to the middle of Indiana in the 80s. And that's when you're discovering yourself, right? That's when you're coming into your own as a young person, as an adolescent. And so hair plays a role because in America, hair is very much about your racial aesthetic and identity. But what I've found too is, and I encourage you guys to think about this, who you want to be. It's one thing who you are, but who you want to be and what community you're connected to and you belong to. And I remember when my father passed away when I was in graduate school, it was 23 years ago. And I remember feeling like, oh God, my connection to Nigeria. I had lost that immediate connection to Nigeria because I hadn't been home in so long. And a friend of mine said to me, as a mixed Nigerian, as somebody who you won't look at me and say, oh, she's an African. He said, nobody's going to give it to you. You just claim it. You have to claim it. And that resonated for me, right? It resonated for me because I realized in all my journeys and all where people are going to define me, it's up to me to define the identity for myself and let you know who I am. And we do that as women, we do that as Black people. You may do that in your religion, you may do that, but claim who you are for yourself. Ensure that you know who you are and be grounded in it. And I think we're all, as human beings, a work in progress. We're always evolving, we should be. But then claim it. And that's who you are. And correct people if they identify you otherwise. That's what that journey around the world has been. And so when I go back to Nigeria now, you can tell me nothing, right? You can tell me nothing. And in my village, right, they call me Adabeke. In Igbo, the white daughter. I'm Adabeke. It's fine. In Nigeria, I'll be Adabeke. Let me cook my jollof rice. Come and eat, right? That's my identity. In America, I am Black woman, blackity black all day. And if I go to England, it might be right off the boat because those are but it's fine. You claim who you are, be firm in who you are, especially for those of you in this room who identify as Black. Claim it, own it, and be very clear about the value in it. That's what that journey has done for me. I am very, very firm and very happy in who I am, but it's taken me 50 years to get there. Yeah.
Clap it up for confidence.
You spoke a lot right now about finding your confidence and your self-identity and figuring that out. What message do you have for the young people that of color to feel comfortable in their hair? I mean, I know you kind of just touched on it, but give them a little something else. If it's not clear enough, clear it up.
Yeah, you know what? I will tell you this, when it comes to hair in particular, you know that and I will speak specifically to the women in the room. No offense to, because you rocking it
It's
right
okay.
now.
It's okay.
But there's this thing we do to ourselves, which is sort of that question. Like you're in the mirror or you see some hairstyle and you see it on somebody else. You're like, oh, that's dope, but I could never do it. Yes, you can. And I'm going to take a page out of Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. Yes, you can. I think that's the other thing is like we talk ourselves out of things, right? And I say just do it. Like if there's anything that you wanted to try, anything that's a natural protective hairstyle that you just are not quite sure. I used to think like, it's funny because when I first started wearing my natural curly hair, I think I tried to keep it subdued. Like, I didn't want it to be too big or too curly.
Yep.
Like, and I remember young lady, one of my dear friends, but she's like my daughter. She's a mentee of mine. She's like, it's so flat, puff it out. And I felt self-conscious. Like I felt like I had to take a little bit more of a shrinking posture. So I had to be more conservative about how I did that. Almost very tentative about stepping into rocking my natural hair. And now I'm like, the bigger, the better. And what I've noticed is the more I do it, the more I wear my natural hair, the more I rock braids, the more I try new things, the more I'm confident in it. Because I'm learning, right, to live in that and step in that. It's like you try anything new, but this really isn't new like you put on a new shirt. It's you. So I just encourage you to challenge that voice that often lives in your head that might question whether I should do this or try this. Just do it. Just do it. And if anybody tells you it's just hair, I hear that a lot. Going to a predominantly white high school or university, people are like, well, it's just hair. If you don't like it, cut it off. Oh, I'm sorry, what? There is history, there is culture, there is pain and triumph in our hair. So it's not just hair. So I would say those two things. One, try it, give yourself room to make it as big and bold as possible. And then don't let anybody tell you it's just hair. It's not just hair.
That is so true. I really feel like as people of color, we identify so strongly with our hair. Here's a sense of expression.
Yeah.
It's who we are. But outside of that, some social impact questions. What motivates you to be the person you are? What really ignites your flame to be you?
Okay. So I am an Igbo woman. For those of you who don't know, Igbo land is southeast. Nigeria is one of the ethnic groups, one of the biggest ethnic groups in Nigeria. Igbo people are proud people, and bold, audacious, expressive, and Igbo women are all of that. And so I'm very much influenced by my history and my culture and my identity as an Igbo woman. And when my father really raising us, no matter where we were in the world, to identify as Africans. So that's a lot of it. And a lot of what inspires me. My mother is the kindest, most empathetic human being that I know. And so there's a certain element of, I think, empathy and compassion that I get from my mother that makes me feel for other people. And I lose a lot of sleep when I see pain. And I lose a lot of sleep when I see injustice. And I think the greatest atrocity and injustice in this world is colonization, colonialism, and the transatlantic slave trade. And that is what motivates me. And I'm being really honest and frank, I hold a lot of rage in me because of pain that was caused to my community and my people. And I will continue for all my years on this earth to work in service to making the world a better place and a more equitable place for Black people and people of the African diaspora. That's me personally. I am very committed to women's issues and children's issues. But at the end of the day, when I leave this earth, I want it to be that much better for Africans. And when I say Africans, whether you are 400 years removed or you came out of Lagos yesterday, that, and it's really where I come from and what that story is for me. And there was a point in my journey in this country where I recognized that we really are one diaspora, because Africans are really raised, in my experience in Africa, was raised with a bias against African Americans. That's what we're taught. The narrative in this country is global. And it's a story that has been told all over the world, such that those Africans who were not part of the slave trade and not transported across the world believed that in the difference, right? In a difference. And I was taught that as a child. And as an adult, I resent it because we're all from the same place. And so that's what inspires me. That's what motivates me to do the work that I do in racial equity.
Come on, y'all.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know we're having a great time, but they are telling us that we need to wrap it up. So
I know you all have questions.
we have questions, but I mean, y'all good? How y'all feeling?
You look
That's
so
high.
good in your crown,
2 minutes?
too. You're such a pretty thing right there.
Okay. Want to take 3 questions?
Yeah.
All right. Are you down for questions from the audience?
I'm good. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an extra mic right here too. This is our producer, y'all. Come on. Clap.
We already had our fun.
Beautiful ladies right here. Look at all that beautiful natural hair. Look at it.
Yes,
But you all
come
just walking in
on.
the front row. I love that.
They look beautiful. All right, here we go. Yeah, we already had our little bonding experience, so we're ready to go with the questions. Who has a question? Anybody wants to go first? There we go.
Okay, so I researched and I know that you are part of Joy Collective. You're the COO, if I'm not mistaken. I saw that you had a client, which was Shea Moisture. And recently, a lot has been going on with another natural hair company called Maya. Are you aware of that? What's been going on like social media with them being bought by a bigger company? So my question is, when black businesses get taken over by bigger companies that's usually white, do you think that takes away or adds to what we're striving for with the Crown Act and just with the natural hair, like the empowerment of it? Do you think it's beneficial? Do you think it's taken away from it? Like, because I know a lot of young black women are upset because usually it changes what was originally created for us. So I just wanted to get your viewpoint on it and see what you say.
That is such a good question. Thank you for asking that question. It's Brianna, right? Yes. Okay. Yes, I do have perspective on that. And I congratulate Mayel. Monique, I think phenomenal what she has done in partnering with Procter & Gamble. We actually helped do a lot of the PR and communications work when Unilever bought Shea Moisture, because we knew there would be backlash and they knew it as well. Okay, let's have real talk, right? Let's have real talk.
All right, come on.
So, come closer. I'm like, let me lean in. You're getting this on video, let me not get in trouble. So here's what we need to understand. The reason we're having conversation about the Crown Act is because we say it's an economic issue, right? And you guys understand the stark and severe economic disparities and inequities in this country. So when you are a small Black-owned business, your ability to scale and to grow and to become a Black millionaire and to become a Black billionaire and to own a Black company so you can hire other Black people and you can invest in other Black businesses is not the same as the opportunity for others who don't look like us. And so what we need to understand is that when we are assessing and judging a Black business owner that has not just sold, and we shouldn't look at it as sold out to a majority-owned company or a white-owned company. We should look at it as, where has that business owner invested in building and scaling and growing so that there are more resources invested back into the community. So what we don't do, because it's become a narrative, because we've seen it happen before, where big white companies buy black companies, and the integrity of that black company is diluted. So it no longer serves us because our needs are different. And now we serve the masses, and we serve the masses and compromise us. But where there is a company that is committed to scaling a business, creating more resources without a compromise to the integrity of what that is supposed to serve for the community, do not ostracize that company or those people. Support them, encourage them, hold them and the big company accountable for what they need to do. I will tell you, yes, Shea Moisture is a client. Shea Moisture is led by Black women to this day. What it has been afforded being part of the Unilever community and the enterprise or institution that is Unilever is you now have access to global resources in PR and comms. A lot of you are in communications. You have global access to legal resources. You have global access to shared services, to R&D. Think about things that as a small Black-owned company, you may be able to go from a $300 million business to a $1 billion business. Now, as long as you are holding yourself and others accountable to how much of that goes back into our community, then this is a good thing. So I am in full support of Mayel, as long as it continues to contribute to, support, and build our community and invest in our community. But we have to do that because we're never going to close the racial wealth gap until we open up the doors for economic scale. And that's why those deals happen. Now, let me just caveat this. There are people who just want to make money. Don't be fooled by that. There are some people who go into business just to make money. That's okay if that's your thing. Just don't claim that you're here for the community and then you run with the biggest check. This is opinion of Orlena. I'm just saying, this is my personal opinion and professional opinion, but I think we need to do more as a community to support those who have an opportunity to build and scale. And I think also we should look more closely at those companies like Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble, if you don't know, Mark Pritchard is the chief marketing officer. He looks like a white man, but he came out a few years ago and admitted that he's actually, his father's Mexican, and they changed their name when they moved to this country. When his father moved to this country, he changed his name and had children here because he knew there was a better opportunity if they could pass for white. And he is very much an advocate for all different communities in Procter & Gamble. And the head of communications at Procter & Gamble is a Black man. And so you have, again, businesses people. You have people who have a genuine commitment. And you have to look at the full portfolio of these companies before we judge them and judge Mayel. So that's what I would say. I would say that we need to look at the intention and look at what those companies are doing before we make noise about it. That's my opinion.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I found my next hand back here. Thank you.
Last one.
Oh, okay. So my question is a couple years out for most of the people in the room, but I am a young mom who is just starting into her career. It's becoming very demanding, but it's so inspiring to see you and all of your success and 3 boys, and so I'm just wondering how you juggled that.
With hope and a prayer. That's a great question. Here's the advice that I would give you, and I try not to give other parents any advice because everybody's experience is different. Mine is that there's always around, and even in the workplace, people talking about work-life balance. Am I being recorded? I was about to cuss. I find work-life balance to be bullshit, if I can say that. Sorry.
Say what you gotta say. Say what you gotta say.
And I say that because most people are aspiring for that balance all at one time in that moment. What I find is life balance, and I don't call it work-life balance, just life balance, because life is hard, is that the balance comes over time. There are times when you spike like this at work and you're going to give with your family a little bit. And there are times when your family is going to take precedent and work is going to have to give a little bit. And you have other things besides children and work. You might have school. You might go back to school. You might have, I'm at an age where you have aging parents. You might have other things happening. What I have learned in terms of juggling it is to give myself a little bit of grace. I haven't always been good at that. And I think especially as women, but as Black women, as a Black woman, there's this superhero complex, right? And part of it is in our DNA that we've been, especially in this country, we've been domestic for others. We've been raising other people's children for the past 400 years, right? So I think there's this, social construct that many of us sort of fall into and adhere to, where we have to be everything at all times. And I will tell you, if you look around, the focus on mental health right now is the acknowledgement that no human being can be everything at all times. So there are times when I don't think I have been the best mother. I haven't been as attentive as I needed to be. I haven't been there as much. But all of my colleagues at work will tell you, oh, you weren't there because you put family first, right? And it's funny, when the first Crown Act was signed, of the core four, I was the one that wasn't there because it's my son's birthday. So I just wasn't going. Right? It was like the most momentous thing when it comes to the Crown. I wasn't there. I'm not in the pictures. So there are things that it pings at you, but give yourself grace. But you juggle it by accepting that you're going to do this over time and it all levels out. I've got a kid who's a sophomore at Ohio State. I got a kid in high school, a junior in high school, and I have one in middle school. And I look at my children and I don't know how I did it. I have an incredible partner. My husband is phenomenal. And that's how I could drive here this morning, because he was out getting kids out and giving them breakfast and taking them to school. So just, I would say trust yourself, trust the people around you, and give yourself grace. Yeah. And good luck with that. Yeah.
All right.
That's it. I think that was the last one.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, we want to, I'm sorry. I just want to do some closing remarks. So we don't have time. We want to be respectful of Miss Orlena's time this evening. So thank you again. If you can just give her another round of applause.
Yes, come on.
Thank you.
I just want to share that that was brilliant and inspiring. I was like taking notes. So just a couple of things I just want to pull from what Orlena was said. Your voice matters. You mentioned the petition that Dove has, but your voice matters there and your voice matters in this room, in this place. So I want to recognize that. We're so happy to see you this evening. You talked about ending the conditioning that we already have. Take your braids down when you're ready, and not because you feel like you need to, but also that Pennsylvania has not yet passed that bill. So we want to continue on with that conversation through the MLK committee. So we're looking forward to some more programming. So hopefully you'll follow us at PSU_MLK. Find out when we're going to have our next program and come on out. So I want to say thank you to Cultural Central and thank you to Miss Orlena Nwokah. I want to say her name and I want to say it clearly and correct.
Nwokah Blanchard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
the MLK Commemoration Committee would like to present you with a token of our appreciation. So
Oh,
if you
wow.
can just come over.
Oh,
here.
wow.
Yay!
Okay.
Come on, clap it up, clap it up.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, my goodness. Okay, you all know I like gifts. Do I get to open it here? Okay, let's do that. Because I do want to say, one, I love gifts, but I do want to say, if I can just take a moment, may I say thank you?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to say thank you and congratulations to Jane and Eric. They were so fantastic. I mean, just meeting, and I just applaud the two of you for leading this effort, right? Really leading this effort with Culture Central and what you guys are getting up the ground and how you have recruited and galvanized a community to support creating content that is of your voice and is a voice of the community here at PSU. So congratulations and thank you for having me.
Please give them.
So well done, well done, well done. And I really want to say, I know what it was like in school when you've had a long day, you're tired, right? You're like, okay, the food hall closed, I'm gonna have to go to Chipotle. If I go to this thing, oh, you have food. No, and I'm just thinking about young people sitting through, listening to somebody talk about their work. And when I will say just in this, and I'm reminded as I'm looking at all of your beautiful faces, the most precious thing that we have in this world is time. And the fact that you would take it and spend it with me and listen to me. And I could sit here and say, yes, I'm one of the creators of the Crown Act and all that. I'm a mom. I'm an African immigrant. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a wife. I'm a friend, right? Like, I'm just another person trying to do good things in the world. And so I'm so grateful for the time that you have given me just to spend with you and get to know Penn State for the first time, my first time here. So just want to really say thank you and know that your time is precious. I don't take that lightly. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you. And I will open the gift if I can. Okay.
Thank you guys.
you.
And thank you to everybody on the live as well that is watching us from home.
Are there
Thank you.
people watching?
Yeah,
Yes, they
yeah.
are.
Where's the camera?
The camera's back there.
Oh, hey. Thank you.
Eric and
Appreciate
Jaden, we
you.
have gifts for you too. We'll have those at the desk. We just want to show our appreciation.
Oh,
for
stop
you all
it.
hosting
This is
Miss
so
Orlena
sweet.
today. So thank you.
Okay, you all got
you.
really colorful with this. And I will say this. Let me say this because remember we started with say my name. I want to end with I'm open. Anything in the context of Crown is I always name the core four, right? So I accept this and your time and your generosity in really on behalf of all of us, Ajwa and AC and Kelly and me and the Crown Coalition and the team at Dove and the team at Joy that works tirelessly because again, we talk about community. You guys are a phenomenal community and that is what I believe ultimately gets you through life. It's community, right? In every form. So thank you for becoming part of my community. Okay, let me see. I have to
Thank
put that
you.
down.
Let's see. Let's see.
Let's see what's in the bag, guys.
There's a few things.
There's multiple things in the bag.
Whoa. Do you? Me too. Me too.
Okay, now hair is one thing, but I really don't need to show up on every professional meeting in a hoodie, but I do these days and feel like I have to apologize to my clients.
They're all looking at me because I dressed up today.
Oh, this is cute.
All right. Okay. They approve. They approve.
Okay, thank you. That's really sweet. Okay, and I have a mug issue too.
Okay. We might have stalked you somewhere. I don't know.
We at school. We did our research, right?
Okay, you clearly. A little
Wow.
Cute.
Wait, that's dope.
That's nice.
You guys, I don't believe in coincidence. I really don't. I'm a God-fearing woman. I believe everything and all my stuff.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
But I tell you what, I love hoodies. I
I used to collect marks, and I'm a chocolate fiend.
You hit it on the
And
mark.
so this might be the best closing. And I'm so grateful because it's very much me. So thank you for that.
Yes,
This
thank
is
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
So
you
I would just
guys.
like to say, I'm sorry, Jaden.
I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. We appreciate everyone here. Thank you so much, Ms. Orlena, for being here, having a great discussion with us. Thank you to our entire e-board and other
Yes,
members for
everybody in the
being here. We appreciate all of you guys. And thank you so much, Yana. We appreciate you asking us to be here and the entire MLK committee.
Thank
We
you so much
appreciate
for
the
this
opportunity so
opportunity.
much.
Yes. So we thank you all again for keeping King's legacy alive beyond the week of commemoration by striving to bring systemic reform until every person has peace, security, and stability. This is our testament of hope. We are the dream. Everyone is invited to Heritage Hall. We have an after party. Nighttime is the right time with Menso and the Shakes. Our evening celebration continues with entertainment, music, dancing, and food.
Come
Thank
on,
you.
y'all. Make some noise. Come on. That's good. She said party. Come on. Come on.
Yeah,
Yes,
and this party and this event is for you, so please come and be celebrated. So just one more a round of applause for Cultural Central and Miss Orlena.